Thank you, Brian. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are currently situated. Um, Thank you for giving the opportunity to quickly demonstrate the Dolphin Mobile Universal Approval solution. As Brian had alluded earlier in the conversation, this mobile approval solution goes beyond just the AP invoices approval. It spans across the different lines of businesses that include supply chain, HR, finance, and also your other activities that do not fall within the line of businesses. So as you can see, as you log in into this mobile application, you see the different functions that you can execute beyond just invoice approval. On the left hand side, you can see shopping carts approval, purchase order approvals. You see a bunch of approvals in the second tile, which is around the or HR, which includes timesheets, leave requests, travel and expenses, and also other functions around supply chain like contracts. Now, the app extends beyond supply chain, HR, and finance to also support some of your IT approvals, similar to what you would be able to do on a GRC solution, where you have the ability to approve GRC requests coming in within the same application. So, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to focus our demonstration to a day in a life scenario of a procure to pay transaction, walking you through from an approval of a shopping cart or a purchase requisition. And then, subsequent to that, we'll complete an approval of a purchase order that was generated out of that same exact shopping cart or purchase requisition. And then once that is completed and the purchase order is sent out to the vendor and you're receiving the invoice back into SAP or into your Dolphin PTS system, we'll look at how the solution helps you further handle approvals and exceptions that can be captured within this application to help you streamline your approvals around this piece. So what I'm going to do is now at this point begin the approval demonstration based on approving a shopping cart. So when I click on the shopping cart tile, you see that I am responsible to approve two shopping carts that came in, or this could be a purchase requisition that came in from Mike Lee and Amy Smith that report to me. I'm going to open the first shopping cart that came in from Mike Lee and look at the line item details. So Mike Lee within my organization has ordered alkaline batteries and lithium batteries that he needs to procure within his organizational unit. I can look at the line item details by simply selecting the line item and show the details of the line item, which includes the cost center assignment, the delivery date, total value, and so on. I can also look at the different approvers by simply clicking on the approver tab right here, and you can see the list of approvers that are authorized to complete the approval on the shopping cart. So as you can see on the second row on the right hand side, I am Ben Miles, and it shows a status in approval. It's waiting for my action to proceed to my next level management, which is Karen and Pat, so that the shopping cart will be completely approved. Prior to my approval, you can see that Scott McGill actually approved this cart, so I have that full visibility, and then I have to take action here in order to process this shopping cart. So what I'm going to do at this point is quickly take action. So at the bottom of the screen, you see an approve or reject button. And the reason why you see those two options is because the solution gives you the ability to approve or reject even at a line item. So if I do not want to approve, say, lithium batteries, all I have to do is select lithium batteries and cross that out. And I can click on approve or reject. And at this point, the shopping cart approves only one single line item and does not approve the other. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to select that back completely because I want to approve the entire shopping cart. And I'm going to click on approve, click yes, and then the shopping cart has been successfully approved at this point. So assuming that this shopping cart has been created and routed to your procurement to create a purchase order, and that purchase order has been successfully created, what I'm going to demonstrate to you now is I'm going to wear the hat of a procurement personnel or a buyer or a procurement supervisor that can actually open up the purchase orders that are assigned to him. He sees the two different purchase orders that are assigned to him. Um, the cool feature about this app is that you have the ability to do collective approvals as well, uh, by simply clicking the icon on the top left hand side of this app. So the moment I click that, you can see that I have two options, to quickly select collectively, and then I can simply click release. So what I'm able to essentially do is speeden up my approval and release these two purchase orders simultaneously without having to go into each one of them if I was expecting to see these purchase orders. Now, in the interest of this demo, I'm not going to do a collective approval. I'm going to bring it back, and I'm going to click the first purchase order, and I'm going to review the line item details as a procurement supervisor. So as you can see, right now I can see the header note, I can see the release strategy, I can see all the line items that were requested on this purchase order. At this point, I can open up the line item details as I did here for the first line item. If I want to review the second line item, obviously I can click on the second line item as well at the same time and review the purchase order line item. If I would like to see further details, like for example the item note, which is on the extreme right hand side of the screen, I can click the item note, and at this point it shows me that there is a note here that talks about the replacement pump being broken, and we have the need to quickly fix this. So I recognize the need quickly by reading that item note, and then I'm going to click release here and then click yes, and this purchase order at this point is completely approved and goes out to your supplier. Now that I have walked you through the procurement scenarios, which is requisitioning or creating a shopping cart, going through an approval on the same application, I also demonstrated to you the purchase order approval, and the purchase order at this point is gone to the vendor. Assuming that the vendor has completed his commercial terms and conditions of delivering the goods or rendering the services, at this point the supplier has submitted an invoice either electronically or through a paper-based channel into your system, and at this point, when that invoice processes through Dolphin, it can get into an exception scenario, or it could just not have an exception and post directly. So in scenarios where there are exceptions, what I'm going to demonstrate here is when I click on AP invoices, it shows me the list of all invoices that requires my action to complete the approvals. So as you can see here, I have a list of invoices starting from the top being non-PO invoices. The first three are non-PO invoices. The fourth one is an invoice with a quantity block, which means it requires resolution of an exception. The fifth one is again a block which requires resolution of exception based on a price variance. And then the last one is a service invoice that came in that automatically generated a service entry sheet in Dolphin, and I can review the invoice to take further action. So I'm going to begin the demonstration with showing what happens in a blocked invoice situation for a quantity variance. So I'm going to select the fourth line item in this list. As you can see here, I can see the header of the invoice. I can look at the line item details. I can also look at the invoice attachment itself. So if I click on the invoice attachment at this point, it shows me the invoice on the right hand side, but it's not very legible. So obviously if I want to zoom into this invoice, I don't need to zoom in as I'm showing right here, but rather I can just click on the zoom icon right at the top, and then at this point I'm able to view the entire invoice that was submitted by the vendor. This is the actual invoice that the vendor submitted. So now that I'm comfortable with the invoice and I understand that this are services or goods that were delivered by the supplier, and I have an understanding that I need to actually resolve this block, all I need to do is click on the line item right at the top, and as you can see on the right hand side, I have a screen that has popped up that is prompting me to take action to resolve this blocked invoice. And what it's asking me to do is enter the quantity of the goods that I have received, and I'm responsible to complete the goods receipt. So all I do is enter the quantity. In this case, I'm going to assume that it's a full goods receipt, which I have received all the three parts requested on this invoice. And then all I do is click save and click confirm. It gives you a pop-up if you want to really confirm or enter a goods receipt for this PO. And when I click yes, the system automatically posts a goods receipt into the backend system and unblocks your invoice for posting and payment. So this was a great example of how you can better handle your blocked invoice situation for a quantity mismatch. Now let's take an example of a blocked invoice for a price mismatch, for example. So I'm going to pick the fourth one from the list, and exactly as I did in the quantity mismatch scenario, you can see that it has routed to me, since I am responsible for this particular invoice, for taking further action. At this point, obviously I can look at the line item details. I can display the details of the line items. I see that there's a price mismatch on the right hand side. The unit price is 205 on the purchase order, but my invoice unit price is 210, which means the supplier has charged me more than what is on the purchase order. So obviously this discrepancy requires to be resolved, and it requires a procurement personnel's attention. And at that point, if I need to forward this particular invoice to a procurement personnel to take further action, I can simply select the icon right at the top on the center, and when I do that, it gives me the ability to search for a person to forward to. So for example, I can say I can do a fuzzy search, and then you see that I have identified two individuals here that based on my typing of a single letter proposing me that you would like to forward to any one of these individuals, and say Barbara is the person responsible to resolve this block, I'm able to select that person and then click on the forward button and click yes. So at this point, I was able to resolve this exception, or actually put it along the next step of processing, by forwarding this price variance mismatch invoice to a procurement individual to take further action. Now let's look at the third scenario here, which is a service entry sheet scenario, or a service purchase order invoice. So when I open up the fourth invoice here on the left hand side, you can see that I received a service purchase order invoice with two line items for an SAP functional consultant and an ABAP developer that one of my vendors have provided services for. When the invoice was submitted to the Dolphin PTS solution, the system automatically checked for if there was a service entry sheet existing or not, and if it did not, the PTS solution automatically created that service entry sheet and then routed it to me for acceptance. So what you're seeing on your screen right now is an automatically generated service entry sheet that was routed to me for further approval and acceptance. So similar to the other invoices as I reviewed, in this case I can quickly review the line item details. I can look at each of those line item details, and when I know that these two individuals actually have completed the services as requested, I can simply click on accept and then click yes, which at this point not only posts the service entry sheet, but in parallel it's actually also posting your invoice simultaneously for further processing of payment to the vendor. So those three scenarios very well covered your PO invoice scenarios that includes materials as well as your service purchase orders. Now what we're going to do is quickly focus on the non-PO invoice scenario where you have no reference leading document like a purchase order, and it's a simple non-PO invoice that comes in without any coding information, without any additional information, and requires your attention as you are the contact person on this invoice. So let's pull up the first invoice in this list, which is a non-PO invoice. As you can see, I can see the two line items. I can see the header of the invoice. Just like the other invoices, I can look at the invoice image. I can zoom into the invoice image as needed. I can look at the details of the zoomed in invoice. I can then zoom out. And then when I'm ready to approve this, I can obviously click approve or reject it. Or if I want to look at the subsequent approvers within the dynamic chain, I can look at those approvers. So as you can see on the right hand side, I am Ben Miles. It's an approval with me, and it's got 2 levels of additional approval before I can post this invoice into the system. So let's go ahead and try to approve this invoice at this point. And the moment I click approve, you can see that the system does not, or the solution does not allow you to actually post this invoice because it has missing data. What is that missing data is your coding information, because you were not able to capture the coding information up front like you would have done in your purchase order using a purchase order invoice. So in this case, it's requiring me as an approver to complete the coding. So when I click on line item 1, I can simply look at the GL. I can select the cost center information. I can do a fuzzy search based on a description or the number if I know. Simply selecting the cost center that is available here. And once I select the cost center, all I have to do is select the second line item cost center. And once I am done selecting that, I can simply click approval, and I can type in a note to the approver. So at this point, when I click approve, after putting a note to the requester, I just click yes, and your invoice has been successfully approved for that PTS record. So what I did essentially is walked you through a day in a life of a procure to pay scenario, starting from your procurement process that includes requisitioning. We saw how PO approval can be made easy, and then we also saw how all your invoices, including your exceptions, can be seamlessly managed within this one single screen by executing this particular app. Now, for the next 5 minutes, I would like to focus on the specific features and functionality of this app. So you can see on the right hand top corner, there are a couple of icons that show up. This is specifically around your delegation functionality, which provides a great differentiating aspect within this product. So if I click on the extreme right icon, which is those 2 individuals, you can see that over the last 1 year or so, I have delegated my inbox to 4 different individuals in my company. Kevin James, Kelly Smith, and so on. So if I want to use these existing individuals to create a substitution, assuming that I'm going on a vacation sometime starting next week, I can simply select that individual that I'm actually going to create a new delegation date. I click on the delimit date. I select that. I change the delimit date, and I'm going to assign the new delimit date so that this person has now access till the 28th, till tomorrow, to access my inbox. So at this point, I can simply click email substitute notification. And when I do that, it opens up the client, the email client on your phone to send this information out to the substitute. Or I can simply click on the call substitute, and it will automatically retrieve the phone number from your HR record and you'll be able to talk to this individual to inform him of this new substitution. Now, if you don't find the substitute that is available in this list, you can obviously add additional substitutes. So, for example, I don't want to use any of those individuals that popped up. I can simply add a new substitute by clicking that add substitute button, and I'm going to search for an individual here. So here Gary Cruz is the one that I was looking to substitute. So at this point I've selected Gary Cruz. The mobile solution is asking me from what date would you like to initiate the substitution. So I'm going to start the substitution right from tomorrow, and then I'm going to do this for a period of 1 week at least, since I'm going to be away on a conference. And I'm going to select, say, the 6th of June until when Gary will have access to my inbox. So I'm going to click assign new substitution period, click OK, and the similar function where you can actually email the notification or call the substitute. So now that I have added these substitutes, I can quickly go back home and assume that I have taken the role of Gary now. So Gary is actually not only looking at his inbox, which is the screen that you're looking at right now, but he can toggle between my inbox and his own inbox. So Gary can actually click on the box button right there, and he can see a list of people that have delegated it to him. So in this case, he can see 2 people that have delegated him the inbox, and he can see that there are actions that he would have to take in order to process their inbox while they're away from the office. So apart from this feature, the solution also provides some great configurability aspects. So if I click on the gear icon at the top, you can see that there's a drop down of all the work items that are living within this iPad app. Now, if I don't want to hide, I don't want to show some of these items since they're not necessarily applicable to me. All I can do is click the hide button. Like for example, I'm going to hide contracts, timesheets, leave requests. I don't care about GRC, BPM, and all the others. All I care about is just the shopping carts, purchase orders, AP invoices, and purchase requisitions. And I want to clean up my dashboard. So all I did was I clicked on hide and I clicked done. So at this point you can see that it's a much cleaner looking dashboard for you, and a much focused dashboard that lets you focus on, for example, just your procure to pay life cycle. The other cool feature about this is you can prioritize what you want to see in your list. So assume that I'm going to bring my travel and expense back, timesheet back, and leave request. And I more often actually see the travel and expense reports come more often. I want to see that up front. All I can do is, if I want to see that as my first work item, I can move this item right to the top of my list. As you can see how I'm just dragging this and dropping it right at the top. And then when I click done, you'll see that the travel and expense reports turn to be my first item in the list. Now this configuration is not just possible on the iPad itself. It can be centrally managed by your IT team as well, and you can turn on and off any of these work items centrally through a configuration module that the solution provides you. So with that, I would like to hand this back to Brian, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions if you would have any towards the end of the call. Thank you so much, folks.